not want impeachment. That's a futile exercise. It will not happen. All members of parliament have been bought, the ones who voted no and the ones who voted yes. We are going to have to replace the entire political class currently occupying institutions of power because they are all on the same side. I say on the same side because if you listened over their speeches over the weekend, if you listen to ODM and Azimio people speaking from Kakamega, if you listen to them speaking from the KICC with Ruto, they are reorganizing, they are rebranding, they are strategizing on how to take over this revolution, this movement, so that they can come in with people, imposters, youth from all over the country that are going to do their bidding. These youth do not represent the revolutionaries on the street, the ones who have died, the ones who have been abducted, the ones who have been tortured. So we have to be very clear. If we are rejecting and we are overhauling the entire system, we cannot at the same time say that we want them to go to the same rotten National Assembly that passed Finance Bill 2024 to impeach Ruto. That would be witchcraft. They will not be able to impeach Ruto. We want parliament disbanded and we are going to do it. Just like you said correctly, that why are we asking for Ruto to fire so-and-so? We remove him with the entire regime, which means we fire everybody, plus we fire the opposition that is fortifying them. So I will end by saying, I think the next pressure point is Tuesday, that we should come out in large numbers so that if Ruto is going, and by Ruto I mean the entire regime, is going to die by cardiac arrest, so be it. Let's cause that cardiac arrest to happen as soon as possible. Let's remove these people. Let's then transform this the system of governance. But we cannot do it, of course. The strategy of doing that will not be done on the spaces because they are here. I've actually seen my friend Murkomen is here and other people from State House. So people are listening to us, and it is good that they are here because I think they need to listen to us. And they need to know that what they're trying to do now is too little, too late. We are not interested. That is something they should have done 2 years ago when they were sworn into power. They failed to do that. They showed us that they were not interested. They were not capable. They are not competent. They are, in terms of integrity, they are, and they need to know that. And so the people, what they are trying to do now is too little, too late. That we donated to them, and are now exercising that power. And Tuesday should be the final push when they all are removed from power. I will yield the mic.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Before we proceed to NATO, I would just like to underline that indeed the only opposition we have in the country is the population. And the unfortunate event that happened, unfortunate but also fortunate, is that when there was signing in or the IBC topic there, the opposition actually, who was supposed to be defending the country, came and joined the ruling party. And it was unfortunate, but at the same time, very fortunate, because then the people would see that these, they're on their own, actually. That was the message they communicated right there. So for this, I believe also any process going through the same, parliament would not go through. Another thing I wanted to highlight, that was at the very beginning, Daktari talked about communication and information where people were attacking each other, and there were a lot of propaganda going on. In the recent times, we've seen, actually it was my very first time that I saw any country beating Russia with the propaganda. At the very beginning, they really floored them. Russia came and caught up later. So in war, there's power in information. What I find very unfortunate is that if A says this is happening, instead of people coming to prove A wrong, they come and attack A and say, no, he's lying. And so there's a risky situation in Kenya at the moment, because we have this side saying this side saying one thing, the other side saying the other thing. The government itself cannot be trusted with information. So we have really a vacuum that's really leading to a lot of misinformation. I hope the LSK is going to step up. I hope so far the public seem to be trusting them more, but we need a clear, when something happens, we need a body coming up and say, this is what we believe to be true because of ABC. That will give the public more trust, and then we'll end up having, we'll end up having a better situation than now. Now it's chaotic. Over to you, Neto.
Thank you very much, Maj. And I'm conscious of the fact that after this, you would like us to give an open mic. But there are three things that I'd like to state. I think Dr. Muluka and General Muguna, their minds have met to the extent that really this particular revolution needs to be a collective. That, people of all generations need to come up together and, we do this together. But more instructive is General Muluka sharing with this history of revolutions to the extent that, if it's leaderless, then also think that matches with what Buka said in terms of, expanding all the voices in the streets into a formidable and organized structure. Having said that much, let me say three things. Number one, what the people of Kenya are doing is constitutional. There is nothing unconstitutional about what we are doing. It is because, and I'm happy that Tony Gashoka was really was on top of it, when he said, when he took us to Article 4 of the Constitution. But I want to expand it slightly a bit more and point at 4 or 5 articles of the Constitution. The first one is the article that gives sovereignty to the people. And that article says that the people shall exercise their sovereignty directly, and where sometimes or may delegate. So of course, that sovereignty was delegated to the Houses of Parliament, has been delegated to the executive. But we think that the executive is not running the country in the manner that we had hoped that he does that. What did he do? Article 10 aspirations in terms of national values, national core values have not been taken into consideration. Article 73, Article 74, 75, 76 of the Constitution with regard to national integrity and integrity of leadership has not been taken into consideration. So therefore, the Kenyan people are saying, within the means and province of the Constitution, Article 37, we shall peacefully and unarmed present a petition to you, the presidency, telling you that you are not running the country in the way that we want to run. All this is very constitutional. So we hope that the presidency can then see within the meaning of Article 146, which provides for the president may and should resign because we gave you a mandate, you've not been able to deliver on that particular mandate. So all this is very constitutional, and no one should ever say that the people of Kenya are acting. Having said that, there is a conversation that is ongoing, and I'm happy that General Muguna just said that right now. We do not, God is on the side of the people of Kenya. For those who are not believers in God, you'll permit me. 2-3 years ago, the former Chief Justice on the province of Article 2617 of the Constitution did declare this particular parliament unconstitutional and should have been dissolved. Now, those of you who have had a chance to read that particular ruling, it is a ruling and a judgment that is supposed to be in perpetuity for all parliaments. So that this particular parliament in itself is illegal, it's unconstitutional. And what we really need to do, that's my pointer one in terms of pressure point, is we just need to ask for a decree that this particular parliament then is dissolved. President, what does that do for us? And should resign because if you look at when the presidential election needs to be done, the presidential election is then envisaged to take place at the same time as the election of the members of parliament. So that is already a very, very easy process. In fact, you don't even have to struggle. You don't even have to crack our heads. We just need to push in the next couple of weeks for a decree for the Supreme Court to declare that this particular parliament is unconstitutional, as was decided in 2010, dissolve it, and when you dissolve it, the presidency has to seek fresh mandate within the meaning of Article 146 as read together with Article 102 and Article 104 of the Constitution. But let me tell you the second thing that I wanted to say. anyone who studied history, and Barack Muluk and colleagues are here, you must already agree that this Kenya Kwanza regime is going to fall. And this was bound to happen, and it was going to happen for whatever regime that was coming in place and was not going to deliver on the people of Kenya. Number one, those who've studied how the mighty persons fall, whether it's regimes, whether it's companies, you will see they walked us through the 4 or 5 stages of falling of mighty people. The first was the hubris. You saw it all, people flagging off very many serious things, feeling all important, high-flying people. The second, of course, was the indisciplined pursuit for more. The third stage, which I think is what I want to emphasize, and I do the fourth one, was the denial of the risk and the peril. You remember when they came to the streets and said the Gen Zs were digital wankers, who could not do anything. They said all manner of unpalatable things. That was basically denying the risk of denial. Now, where we are with Kenya Kwanza and the William Ruto regime is where it is critical. And I think that's what I want to point out, even as we think about the next pressure point. It is on the fourth point, the fourth stage. Of course, mighty people falling is a stage 5 process, but the fourth stage is what was instructive. They're grasping for salvation. And if they're grasping for salvation, it therefore means that they have 2 things. One, that decline and capitation is very possible, and that is what it should do. Or, a bit, if at all they get some resuscitation, then the status quo might remain. But if you look at history, the number of people who've survived the stage 4 fall, apart from Winston Churchill, they're not very many. So that it is possible that even the dalliance that the old regime is trying to give President Ruto and his regime in terms of dialogue and stuff like that, that is not going to be maybe possible. It's not going to be possible to resuscitate them. So in terms of anyone who studied history, I think the conversation is not if the Ruto regime is going to fall. No. The thing is, when is it going to fall? That is the conversation we must have. And that is why, with a bit more pressure point, and that's why I want to move on to the third point, which is what Anthony liked what Anthony was saying, that we must put pressure where it matters most. We must focus the next kind of speakers in terms of where would the pressure matter most. Anthony had this proposal in terms of, if we have sit-ins across major streets, what do we do as the next probable stage of action so that at least we cascade, we fast track this, because again, if you take too long without pushing this regime off the cliff, then you really have a problem of fatigue, many casualties. The sooner we do it, the better, and it's going to be easier. But that it's going to fall is a no-brainer. The reason why Kenyans are saying that the Kenya Kwanza regime must fall is because of how they structured their political economy. I think it's also good. It is nothing personal. It is nothing about any particular tribe. It's nothing about any particular person. It is the way they reign the political economy. It has been founded on patronage. It has been founded on corruption. It has been founded on middlemen. And, they've encroached and they practiced the rent-seeking behavior in a manner that made rule of law and constitutionalism not possible. And that is why, and I agree with the Gen Zs, we are saying we must push off this particular regime simply because of 2 reasons. They are not believing in constitutionalism. They're not believing in the rule of law. Whoever takes up power after this regime falls off must then take us back to the 2010 constitution. Let's leave those aspirations. Let us agree that Kenya is going to be run on the basis of Article 1, which is supremacy of the people, with all the aspirations of the country. We must agree. How do we accelerate the next conventions? How do we accelerate the fall of this particular regime? Because it's going to fall anyway. The sooner we do it, the better for us. And then at least we say how then we plan a post Kenya Kwanza regime organizing. Thank you very much, Maj. Maybe you can give the mic for the next person. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Honorable Lento, as much coming in. Yeah, let us have ladies on board. Mkasi umenyamaza sana, but I can see Tabitha is back. She dropped. Tabi, can you go ahead?
Thank you, Hilary. Maj, you are doing a great work in hosting us in this space and making sure that balance is also achieved well at it. I really want to also just weigh in my condolence to the families that have been affected by the recent finding of the dead bodies. We can't account for why they had to undergo such indecent way of killing, and who are the puppets And I think as we talk about the pressure points, we need to, call the bodies that are in charge of making sure that Kenyans are protected, and in that we are not supposed to just be dying, and we cannot even, account for circumstances that resulted to that. So I think we need to really call the bodies that are in charge of giving us protection and also making sure that national security is attained. We need to call them accountable and give them pressure to also keep saying their issues that regards to violation of human rights. We've seen a lot of killing situations that we need them to tell us exactly what are some of the steps that are going to be taken for the people who are found guilty, and even those who have been caught on cameras, national police that were taking part in the demonstrations, and they shot some of the demonstrators live with live bullets. Some of them were seen stepping on their necks. Some of them were seen doing very inhumane, ways of, trying to silence the voices of very peaceful protesters. So we have to see some of this conversation also taking place. We need to call these people accountable. So that we are able to also, as we go towards a free Kenya, a Kenya where all of us enjoy equal human rights conditions, these particular bodies that are in charge of giving us protection need to be held into account as a pressure point. I want to say that it's very good that I've seen the co-hosts and the hosts really giving us direction when it comes to also, this space being objective and just discussing exactly what we really need to see moving forward, other than characters and people already. Some of them we know exactly who they are. So now what is important for us as Kenyans is to, for example, see and offer recommendations on what we would want. Now, one of the biggest problems we have in this country is corruption and the pandemic. It's more of a pandemic. We need to see the government declare this as a pandemic and have the EACC fast track all corruption cases and close them within 3 months, so we see how much we are able to recover from, the looted and embezzlement of public funds from, even this the cabinet secretaries whom have left power. We need to fast track and see what have we lost when they're in the offices. What did we lose, for example, when Ababu Namamba was the CS in charge of the sports ministry? What did we lose, for example, when Nakumincha was a very boastful CS who could go even to a village and fire the OCPD in that area, and she was a minister of health. What did we lose in these particular ministries? Because we have lost money in billions, and so we need to now call this particular government that we're also trying to make it leave power as it does the same. We need to see that the bodies which they are eating already our money, because you see they're being paid. The EACC need also to be held accountable. We need them to give us some of these cases that have started to these public offices embezzling a lot of money for Kenyans. I think with that we will be able to also have justice for what we work so hard for, and the taxes highly. I think also any leader whose department is accused of misappropriation and embezzlement of funds must step aside until all investigations are done. So then we also want to see that this government that is I think illegitimate at the moment, because the people have made their voice very loud, and they have seen that they have no confidence on this government. We have to call the government officials who are still in offices, whether they're in parastatals, whether they're running, even government agencies, and even the governors who have been found culpable. We have seen EACC coming up with reports, and the in-sitting governors whom their counties have been seen to misappropriate funds, they're still sitting in those, offices, and they cannot account for the millions of money that are Kenyan money. They're not able to do projects for the people, and we do not see any legal action being taken against them. So we need to give these bodies that are charged with, like the EACC, they need to do their work. We are calling on them to do their work, because as we call the government of the day to go home, they are still having salaries. So as they are at it, then if they're not able to do our work, then we can go and occupy the EACC so that we are able also to, have these bodies do their work. Now that we have the CSS that were appointed, sent home, as we still call on the pressure, the president, whom we are also trying to make sure that he goes home at the end of the day, will appoint other CSS. So while at it appointing the CSS, there is no point in time that he should, by any point, appoint, for example, the cabinet secretary that is in charge of sports, for example, should come from somebody who has been a sports person with a very successful sports career, shown that they have the capacity to lead and bring transformation to the sports ministry, and that we are supposed to see that not for only few people, but it's supposed to help the youth, and the youth are supposed to feel that the department that is charged with making sure that talents are nurtured, and also Kenya talent space and things like that are taken care of. We have to see people competent. If we are looking at, for example, the CS of health, I mean, we are not supposed to have a CS who already, by all chances, have a questionable academic credential. That person cannot even know what the issues around health are. We need to see somebody who has practiced as a doctor or as health practitioner, with ears showing credibility. They need to do a background search so that we are not able to bring also other people who have integrity issues in the name of political affiliation to this space. And I think it goes ahead to even look at the other ministries and departments. We need to see that. I think another key thing, we need to have everybody that has been employed during the tenure of one Felix Kosgei, there need to be looked at in terms of the ethical imbalance, so that we ensure there is a balance in the civil service based on the census of Kenya 2019 and of qualifications of people, because we have to live through the fact that there are many, there are tribes who are more dominant in the employment spaces, especially during this tenure of the President Ruto, where we see one tribe holding key positions in terms of CEOs, even in the government parastatals. It cascades down even to the normal employees in the civil service. We need to have a review of the employment. We have to look at and review what are the qualifications and has it met the threshold for ethnicity balance, because as we talk about unemployment even amongst the youth, then we need to look at how all of them get a position, especially if these people have gone to school, they have the qualification that they deserve. Not one tribe should be getting more government jobs. I think another pressure point for me as an individual, and I'm speaking on my behalf on what I would really like to, push to happen, is that these counties, as we talk about occupying them, they actually need to be occupied. Now, the occupation, the auditors now, this EACC need to send the auditors down to the counties. So we need to know that these counties, how much have we been losing during this administration under these governors? What are some of the malpractices that are taking part in these counties? Of course, we know amongst them big is corruption. Bigger ones are even nepotism, and the list continues, because you see the problem that happens at national government. They have even cascaded down here to devolution. I mean, corruption has been devolved greatly. So we need to hold the county government also very accountable. So I think as a guideline towards the pressure points, given other factors and what the great speakers have said today, now we need to have clear as we leave the space today, as we go to Occupy on Tuesday, what are the key pressure points that we need to go and look at as we occupy the counties, then what is the direction? So if we can have individuals here who maybe by chance already have records of what, for example, Siaya County, where I come from, what are some of the things we need to look at as we go occupying the county and amongst other counties, then it would be a good guideline for the people whom will take part in this operation, which myself, I'll be there. I'll be at the center. I've always been there, especially here from where I'm speaking in my county. So then we are able to call out even the vices in the county. And as we clean this government and we demand for a better governance space, for better leadership in this country, I'm telling you, it has to start from the bottom. So we have to also hold, we have to have maybe even civic engagement with the people on the ground and get to even understand what is happening on our ward, so that as we call out bed gaps and we talk about an administration is not functioning out for better as people of Kenya because we deserve better. You know, I heard when Ruto was campaigning, he said wajinga wameisha Kenya, na ni ukweli kwa sababu tumeisha. And at the same point, he was trying to take us for fools, but he has realized that really Kenyans are not like people in other countries, in other East African countries, whom they know that they're being taken for a ride and they're still just staying there. And so we want to really understand that we are not just doing this in Nairobi, but even at the counties, as we upscale this and we demand for better, what are some of the pressure points? But as I finish my submission, so that I allow other great speakers also and contributors to weigh in, I would like to say that we cannot win this particular revolution if we are not going to relook at the ways of or the strategies, because as we are talking at the government.
Can you hear Tabitha?
I think she's dropped.
Okay. So sorry, Tabitha, for that. I don't know what happened there.
I can't hear Tabitha. I think there's a problem with
So, Kingsman, there was somebody who was, there's a lady who was to come before you, but I cannot see her anymore. Please go. And to all the guest speakers, should you want to chime in at any point, just raise your hand and then I'll see and let you go. Kingsman, over to you. Kingsman, can you hear me? Okay. Kingsman cannot hear me. Just let me add more speakers to the panel. Meanwhile, Neto, over to you. As I add ladies, I want to add more ladies. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I thank Tabitha for already pointing us towards some of the pressure points, and I like that even as you speak, we've agreed that this particular regime is collapsing. The counties therefore becomes another focus because of the rule of law, corruption issues that the countries have gone through. So, I mean, part of the strategy would be we focus in the CBD like General Miguna proposes. I think that would be very good for us, so that we must accelerate the speed and the number of days that we check with this regime before it collapses as we move forward to the next republic. Thank you.
And at the top of the hour, because the three hours are going to be over. So Esperance, over to you. And then Lady Justice. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll be as brief as possible. I just wanted to add to whatever Tabitha was saying when it comes to representation. For a very long time, when Uhuru and Ruto were elected in 2013, what they wrote down was youth. They called themselves youth. Or you see, even the cabinet secretary, someone like Ababu Namwamba, he's been Christ and youth. Because somebody is youthful looking does not mean they are youth. So for a very long time, we've had people riding on being youthful and masquerading as youths, yet they're just youthful and at the expense of other young people. So even as we forge forward, I think it's important that young people, as the Gen Zs, we continue to lead this. We really have young people coming to the front and being supported as much as you people are doing. Realize we have millennials and other people So we really have to bring these young people on board in all honesty, in all conversations. Sorry, Madge, I can see you raising your hand. Does that
Yes,
mean
Esperanza, just a moment. I forgot to explain. So for the 2 minutes, when I raise my hand, then it means that 1 minute is over and the speaker has another minute to wind up. Kindly proceed.
Or all right, thank you very much. Yeah, so as a feminist, I'd also want to say I'd want women to be brought aboard this movement. Not to be brought a lot, but to also lead. I've seen Tabitha and the works she does in Siaya, and I've seen. I mean, this is. I think I wasn't ready to speak. I don't know how I got here. Thank you very much. Let me continue for now.
No, Esperance, I actually can guess what's going on. It has been very emotional, and that's why I'd like to encourage everyone not to downplay the mental weight of what is going on here. So, Kingsman and then Komwanza.
Kingsman, are you connected really?
Kingsman
No,
cannot hear me now.
you guys can hear me.
Yes,
Can
now.
you go ahead. Kingsman. No.
Okay.
Leave Lady Justice or Mukawasi, or who is going next, Marge?
Komwanza and then Lady Justice.
Okay.
Komwanza, can you hear me? Kindly unmute your mic.
Me?
Okay. Mukawasi, Dr. Mukawasi, I can hear you. Please go.
Oh, okay, thank you. Just a small comment I would like to make that was about countering propaganda, because this is going to happen a lot as you keep on going. For example, countering the charge of anarchy. Now, this goes to the idea of how to come against pro-regime propaganda. And I'm told there's a group of opportunistic persons who've been trying to paint the unfolding revolution as anarchy. I would say there's a need for us to resist the reaction of being defensive and have enough information when propaganda comes around. For example, ask them what they understand by anarchy. If they mean chaos, remind them that the beginning of this revolution, and every time Kenyans rose up to demand a better country, that the people turned up unarmed. It's always been the regime and its tools of power who injected chaos. I think this was made clear by Buka. If they mean anarchy as a form of governance, teach them that many African communities that were not kingdoms were organized around anarchical system. And it simply means a government that rejects coercion and authoritarian hierarchy. These kind of places we were in used to be peaceful and they thrived until external intervention happened. Like I know of systems like my own people where the buying and selling of land amongst ourselves was profitable and that worked smoothly until the forces of colonization decided to give our land to other people, to the queen or whoever it was they gave it to. So those who do not know this history will believe we did not have existing healthy anarcho-capitalist systems regulated by councils of elders where no one was homeless. Now look at where we are now. So if you need this leaderless space to strategize and solidify the revolution, let no one tell you are chaotic, and press on. You are at a critical point of establishing foundations that will sustain you. Your leadership roles will become clear as you figure out who your friends are, who your enemies are, who you need to work with, who you need to have at the core. I'll just give you one example. Historically, there was one country, Republic of Kospaya, that successfully ran an anarchical government for almost 400 years. And they were so successful, they were so free that the Pope decided to end it all. And I'm not saying this so that we can adopt this kind of system for Kenya. No, I'm just giving this example as arsenal for you to push back on propaganda and insults like being called anarchist and chaos, which would mean violent. Just reject the propaganda and move on, figure out how to get information that can counter what propaganda that is coming at you. It has so far been inspirational to the rest of Africa. This revolution has. So keep the pressure on towards achieving the Kenya where every human life is sacrosanct. That is so important. Start by mourning every single life. Start by having a space where everybody who's killed, abducted, extrajudicial killings that have happened, that person is on a space and their names are there, never forgotten. And this is radical, changing the idea that the lives we have are not important. They are very important. So just keep mobilizing and organizing, solidify your strategies, and stay on mission. Thank you. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Daktari. And now we moved. Actually, before I move to the next speaker, the point that you talk about of countering the propaganda, I must say that this is one that's really not easy, especially when people are the topic is very emotive and people don't even have time to react to or to synthesize one event. Then the next event comes and it just it swims out there, and I see that online. I see people reacting, even turning around and starting to even attack the people they're working with just because of propaganda. So I hope you can probably share on the comment section. I know for those who have time to read some literature there, then I think they will just sit down and take, even if it's 20 minutes per day, to just read and get accustomed to that. Thanks so much for that contribution. We go to Kingsman. Are you able to speak now? Otherwise, you go to Lady Justice.
Yes. I'm able to speak now.
Please go, and then Lady Justice is next. Yeah.
Okay. Now, mine. First of all, to those that have come in now, I want to greet you all. Hope you are well. Mine is just to emphasize on the points that our key speakers, Dr. Barak, Dr. Miguna, have spoken about. Kinabuka is, first of all, there's something that Dr. Barak has spoken about, that we need to define clearly what we want as a people in terms of governance. And if either we want a regime change or it's a revolution, then if it is a revolution, there is something that is key whereby we need to change our system of governance, because I think that is the elephant in the room, and that is what has brought us here. The people who gave us the 2010 constitution, they gave us a very good document that focused so much on human rights, but there is a place I think we were played on. We were played in terms of representation, and we were given one of the most expensive constitutions in the world. If you look at representation at the county level, representation at the constituency level, I think the number of legislators that we have in the country can represent the whole of Africa, even 2 or 3 continents. If you look at the numbers, we have 416 members of parliament. That is now at the Senate, and then at the August House, that is where the MPs reside. We have 290 MPs, 47 women rep as of to date, and I'm not gender biased. I'm still unable to understand what their roles are in the society, and their. If you look at the both divide of the political class that we have in Kenya, they are just there as flower girls. They are literally doing nothing. If you go to the MCAs, we have 25, 26, 14, 50 elected, and the others are they come from. I see most are appointed or nominated by the parties. They actually have got nothing to do, so that the likes of Alai, the only thing they do nowadays, instead of going around doing the work that they are ought to have done as per the constitution, they are blogging for Ruto. That is what they have become. We have a very expensive constitution and members of parliament, whereby we need 20 billion annually in order to continue servicing this part of this arm of government. If you take the money that we are paying these people like annually, you can. If you take the 20 billion that you pay the member of parliament, you can build 143 primary schools every year. at a budget of around 20 million. You can either build another 500 secondary schools every year at a budget of 40 million shillings per secondary school. You can build 100 district hospitals every year. You can be at a budget of around 200 million shillings. 50 million shillings in terms of health centers. You can build 6 national state-of-the-art hospitals in the country if you take that money. So there's something I was pondering about, and this alludes to what Muluka was talking about, governance. Why should we have people?
Can anyone hear Kingsman? I cannot hear him.
No, I think you
He's,
dropped.
oh my gosh, the IT over here is no, I don't know. Anyway, so Hillary, do you want to chime in before we bring in?
No. It's okay.
Can I chime in, Marge?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
go ahead.
Yeah, so Marge, what I would like to say is this, that we should not lose sight of substance and secondary issues, or substance and side issues. I know a lot of people have attacked the 2010 Constitution. The problem is not the Constitution. For example, the Constitution does not set the pay scale for members of parliament. The Constitution may provide for the number of representation, but you could pay them $2 each. You could pay them 100 shillings each. You could pay them 20,000 shillings per month. So the amount of money wasted in providing these charlatans with largesse is not anchored on the Constitution. These are subsidiary legislation they have passed, which we can nullify. The Constitution is not the problem, and that's not the mischief to be fixed. Everybody pointing at the Constitution either is doing so because they have been confused or because they have not thought about this issue correctly. The problem, number one, is corruption. The amount of money we are losing from corruption is 1 million, 10 million, 10 billion times what we are paying, say, for example, our quote-unquote representatives who are not even representing us. For example, Uhuru Kenyatta, the despot, said he was losing, or the government, his regime was losing 2 billion shillings a day. He didn't tell us from where. He didn't tell us who was stealing. He did not stop the stealing. He did not arrest anyone. Nobody was charged. Nobody has been convicted. The money has never been recovered. So which means they know exactly where the money is being stolen, who is stealing, but they don't want to do anything about it because they are the ones who are stealing. So I think we have to identify the problem correctly. The Constitution can be maintained the way it is, and still we can save the country a lot of money if we stop corruption and theft, entrepreneuring, and if we reduce the amount of money that the so-called representatives are being paid. Now, regarding the women or woman reps, the problem is not the fact that women representatives exist and that they do nothing. It is the quality of the women reps, which then calls into question, how do these political parties choose who the representatives are? They choose their girlfriends, they choose their relatives, they choose their cronies, who are the most incompetent and significantly with absolutely no integrity. So of course, they end up doing nothing. Finally, CDF was declared unconstitutional by the High Court. It was appealed, and the Supreme Court said CDF is unconstitutional. it's supposed to be disbanded. It is this place where the majority of the money is lost. I'll give you an example. Recently, there is a member of parliament for Mumias. I think his name is Salasia, published his pay slip and said that at the end of every month, when you take out all the payments, which are payments he is making to mortgage, vehicles, whatnot. So these are not necessary expenses, but regardless, at the end of the month, he says, I am left with less than 3,000 Kenya shillings. So we would expect somebody who is completely pauperized. We wouldn't even expect him to afford a vehicle. We wouldn't expect him to be able to take flights, to buy air tickets. We wouldn't expect him to be drinking expensive alcohol. Things that we see every day, he does. So where does he get the money? CDF. So we are subsidizing these people's ostentatious lifestyles through bribery called CDF. And why is it there? It's not there for the bursaries that people are telling you, oh, this member of parliament is doing this or that. No. The executive want the CDF to continue because it is CDF they are using to bribe members of parliament. As long as 100 million is given to a member of parliament, they will take 80 million and put in their pockets, and the rest they can dangle as crumbs for the poor people in their constituents, and people will be clapping. So there is a lot of work that we need to do, but to do that, we have to think critically about what we are saying, what the problems are with our institutions, because we could also end up being distracted, like I have seen people being distracted to the Constitution. The mischief is not in the Constitution. There is nothing defective in our Constitution. The problem is failure to enforce it the way it was meant to be. Because if we enforced it and implemented the way it was supposed to be, Chapter 6 would eradicate all the problems of governance. But Chapter 6 has never been enforced. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Generali.
Marge, if I could just finish, because I think I dropped.
Yeah, you dropped. Yeah.
Like for a minute or two. And then,
Yes, please.
We can give the mic to someone else.
Please go on, Kingsman. I think Kingsman cannot speak. Okay. Now, Lady Justice.
Leto, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I think the mic has been given to Lady Justice. Lady Justice?
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to honor the lives that have been lost so far and to also send condolences to the families who are bereaving their loved ones. I want to agree with what Dr. Miguna has just said, that, our constitution is not the problem. In fact, we have one of the best constitutions in the world. The focus should just be on how do we implement this, and perhaps it starts with electing people who are invested in seeing the prosperity of Kenyans. And with that aside, if we're talking about the next pressure point, I'm always conflicted about, yes, we are saying Ruto must go, but how is the next person going to lead Kenya? Because as we already know that we have foreign influence in the country, we have people like IMF, making statements here and there, tells you that they have, they have big interest in the country. How do we get rid of these people? How do we put pressure on the international bodies to take their hands off of Kenya? How do we stop neo-colonialism so that our leaders are not presented with a situation where Ruto is in bed with these people, is being provided with a very, very bad financial bill, and he's told that you have to let your people sign this. You have to let your people pass this. how do we do away with these other people? Because it's not just a matter of doing away with one bad leader. We could bring in another great leader there tomorrow. Let's say, for example, Hillary goes to be the next president, or even Marge. But then Marge gets in there and is like, I cannot do what I need to do for my country, knowing what is important for my country. I can't do it because somebody is holding me back. So how do we do the foreign influence? I yield. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lady Justice. It so happens that anytime a speaker finishes speaking, I'll be, interacting the space in the comment section. That's why there was a small delay over there. So I have been informed, like we planned previously, that we're going to finish at the top of the hour. There has been some comment on the section where somebody is wondering why the speakers are the only one speaking in the beginning. I would like to clarify that these were invited speakers, and when people invite speakers, they speak first, and then we have others chime in. So this is nothing outside the ordinary. So let's have Sirikali ya Kenya, then Doreen, in that order, 2 minutes each, and then at I think 40 past, we're going to have the main speakers make closing remarks.
Hi, everybody. I greet you in the name of the revolution, and I'm here to say that I like what the speakers have presented and what they've outlined as things that we need to keep in our minds. And I really truly appreciate Hillary and crew for hosting this and making sure that the conversation goes on. A lot has been happening, but few things that I'd want to mention is that one, in terms of what the people want, it's clear the people want a break from the current system, and it's clear when you say that you want a break from the current system is that we want to end corruption first. We want to end the people who put their bellies first instead of the poor people on the ground. We want to say that it's time that these people, if they cannot shape up, they ship out. And it's very simple. That's what the people want. It's clear. It's been on the streets. It's been everywhere on the media, and we know it. We have it. We feel it. So, what as of what the people want is quite clear. Secondly, the constitution, and I'm very glad to be sharing the space with Miguna, Buka, and the rest of the comrades, Mkawasi, and the rest of the comrades who are here. The constitution has all the answers. You cannot say that we have an expensive constitution, yet what we have are political bad manners, people who are there, goons, crooks, bloodletting rascals. How do we have to put up with these people and then we say that the constitution is very expensive? They're making it very expensive for us to live. So I think it's also clear about the constitution. It has all the answers. Only implementation. Make implementation work. Implement the constitution as it is without missing a dot or a question mark or a comma. Third, as I finalize, I'd want to say that to make things continue moving, I think we must encourage as many. Yes, I know we are leaderless, we are tribeless, but one thing is we have to make more Kenyans and more Kenyans join the organizing, join the planning, join the decision-making table. So we need all those platforms set up as soon as possible so that we are able to maintain this current revolution. Good night, everybody.
And thank you so much.
In the name of the revolution.
Yes, and thanks for your submission and for keeping the time. Doreen, over to you. Doreen, can you hear me? Then let's go to Nyar Aduen, please. And then Komwanza, 2 minutes each.
Thank you, Marge. I hope I am audible enough.
Loud and clear.
Thank you. People, seeing Ruto and Raila unite is a classic case of the corrupt political class uniting against us, the people of Kenya. And this is because they don't want to be held accountable for their ill-gotten wealth. You remember when we requested for an audit of public fund, all we wanted was to know who borrowed the money on behalf of Kenyans. For what purpose was the money borrowed? Was this money used for the intended purpose? I believe this document should be readily available with the Auditor General. Instead of Ruto doing the needful, he comes up with some unconstitutional task force. People, the unity you see between the political class against Kenyans is because they are all, and I mean all, guilty and want their ills covered. The battle we are fighting is a battle between the future of Kenya versus the status quo. Secondly, today, this regime is possessed with class divisions. It used to be dynasty versus hustler. Then we moved from working class versus Jokali. That was the period of housing levy. Today, I'm amazed to see them pulling the gender card on the quarry of death victims. Remember, the quarry of death victims is just a few meters away from a police post. Woe unto us, we wake up to the news of all those the policemen who are manning the quarry police post, they have all been transferred. And Ruto pretends to be wondering why Kenyans are angry. These transfers is a classic example of what angers Kenya. All those policemen should be prosecuted. And Ruto needs to know, or somebody needs to remind him, that Kenya already moved from police force to police service. These people must offer their services to Kenyans. Once they fail on their services, let them go home like every other company. And therefore, back to the main topic. Where then is our next pressure point? Aside, somebody had suggested sitting, and therefore aside peaceful sitting on our main streets, I would therefore suggest all of us in this forum, plus our friends wherever they are, whether you are in the diaspora or you are in the Kenyan soil, can we all take time and write emails to ICC with videos and photos of those massacred? Can we just agree that on Tuesday, as people will be marching to send Ruto home, on Tuesday as we go on the street, that Monday evening, just before the dawn of Tuesday, we all write to ICC with the videos and photos of the exact things or massacre that is happening in Kenya. That would be my next pressure point. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nyara Duen, for your submission. So let's go to Komwanza, Felix, and Joseph. And I'd really like to apologize to all those who are requesting for the mic, because we might not be able to admit you due to time constraints, but we'll be holding these spaces. We are going to admit you the next time. So sorry about that. Felix and Joseph, and then Komwanza in that order. 2 minutes each, guys, so that at least we have for the main speakers, we have at least 20 minutes where they can finalize. Felix? Felix, can you hear me? Okay. Joseph? Yeah, take a go, Felix. I see you. I've muted your mic. Hillary, can you hear Felix?
No, I can't hear anybody.
Okay. Joseph? Okay. Komwanza?
Thank you, Marge. Thank you, the panel and all listeners. I'll go straight to the point. Now, one, the conversation here and the people faulting the Constitution reminded me of a paper that was written by Professor Okoth Ogendo constitution without constitutionalism, the African paradox. And when you read that paper, the takeaway usually is that you cannot legislate away bad manners. We have a cultural problem. The politicians come to us during every election cycle. They give us handouts and we vote them to power. That's a cultural problem. I think there needs to be reflection on our part as the populace and, of course, the political class, because really we cannot legislate that habit away. In fact, when you go to the UK, Britain does not have a unified one document that they call a constitution, but one of the most organized societies. Now, to the main point here, what's the next pressure point? You realize that the president has dissolved his entire cabinet, including the Attorney General. The president needs the Attorney General